Hold on, wait. We're ready? Right now.
Right now.
So we have a presentation on the history and the importance of the CIA with Jacob Narkis, Bubba Bogart, Levi Schelhaas, and Caleb Beard, myself. What can you expect when looking through the CIA and what we're going to cover today? We're going to cover what the CIA does exactly, who created the CIA and why. We're going to cover some important events that happened, also some important cases that stick out and why exactly they stick out. Other things like we're going to touch why they still exist to this day and some technology that they use and why that technology is important in the projects that they're using today. Also, why the technology that we're using today is different from what it used to be, and also maybe throw some fun facts and conspiracy theories. So I'll pass it over to Jacob.
So I'll be covering what the CIA does. They are quoted in their page. We collect and analyze foreign intelligence and conduct covert action. U.S. policymakers, including the President of the United States, make policy decisions informed by the information we provide. So, as Central Intelligence Agency implies, they are mainly and almost only made and organized to collect intelligence for the U.S. government. They do this through techniques such as covert missions, human intelligence, and signal interception. They ensure they are not holding just the best cards, but the majority of the deck, in order to make sure policymakers are up to date and understand the whole picture to make the correct decisions. They report directly to the U.S. federal government on information for our national security. Who created the CIA and why? President Harry S. Truman created the CIA through the National Security Act of 1947. This was post-World War II, and this was in context, tensions were rising between the Soviet Union and the US, and they knew that they needed a centralized intelligence organization to be in the know-how and just understand what was going on politically across the world in Soviet Russia. So attacks such as Pearl Harbor also influenced this decision, as if they knew that an attack was coming, they could have evacuated, and that would have led to way less casualties on our American soil. So this is where controversies and controversial things may appear. This is the start for the presentation. So Truman himself actually came out declaring that he regretted creating the CIA as they strayed a little too far from their original mission of collecting information. He stated that they interfered too much in actual policies when they're only there to give information for the policies. They actually interfered. So JFK is quoted saying that he wanted to splinter the CIA to 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the wind. This came after the CIA interfered with the Soviet Russia and actually with a few assassination attempts on Fidel Castro. Um, JFK eventually fired the director of the CIA, Allen Dulles, and his associates, and a couple of months later, he was shot dead in Dallas. So many people draw a pretty straight conclusion that the CIA was behind those attacks, but that is just a conspiracy as far as we know.
All right. So before its creation in 1947, the CIA had tried different ways to form, and they went under a lot of different names, but these plans just didn't pan out. Then finally, it was set in stone in 1947, like Jacob said. There were still some changes and implementations made from then until now. 1953, the agency was an established element of the U.S. government. Its contributions in the areas of political action and paramilitary warfare were recognized and respected. The CIA had grown six times in these 6 years from 1947 to 1953. As the agency continued to grow, employees moved from DC to the new headquarters in Langley, Virginia. In 1972, former CIA executive director William Colby had an idea for an agency museum filled with artifacts of historical significance to create a very selective accumulation of truly unique items. Although this museum is not offered to the general public, you can go online and find some interesting gadgets and historical weaponry they've used throughout their existence. Some of the trailblazers of ideas or movements in the CIA are Dr. Baklowski, who was a pioneer in providing U.S. political and military leaders with accurate, reliable mapping information on the Soviet Union. Another important figure for you to know about is Joseph Castillo. Dr. Castillo is recognized for his outstanding performance in analyzing foreign weapon systems and support to senior policymakers on arms control and issues related to that. Then in 2004, with President Bush in charge of our country, things started to change. Bush signed the Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act. This new act restructured the intelligence community and created the Director of National Intelligence, the DNI. DNI oversees 17 intelligence agencies, including the CIA, which serving as the president's principal intelligence advisor. The director of the CIA continues to oversee the CIA's intelligence collection, analysis, and covert actions to advance U.S. national security. And more recently, in 2015, the director of CIA ordered the modernization of the agency into mission centers to improve integration and cooperation among 5 directorates to better address the most pressing intelligence concerns facing our nation.
Okay, so one of the most successful cases of the CIA was known as Operation Gold. So during the Cold War, any information on the Soviets could help give America the upper hand. The CIA, in collaboration with British intelligence, also known as M16, actually built the Glen. The tunnel was designed to tap into Soviet telephone lines to gather critical intelligence, and that allowed the CIA to intercept thousands of Soviet military and government communications. Next slide. So the impact that had was that the operation provided valuable information about the Soviet military strategies and troop movements. Despite being compromised by a Soviet double agent before completion, the Soviets didn't expose the tunnel immediately to avoid revealing their inside source. This showcased the ingenuity and intelligence gathering techniques during the Cold War, and it also became the model or the standard for future operations despite eventual Soviet exposure. Another case that wasn't so successful, which is also really popular, is the U-2 spy plane incident. So that was a big failure within the administration. Basically, the CIA was conducting secret surveillance over the Soviet Union during the Cold War using the U-2 reconnaissance planes. In May 1960, a U-2 plane piloted by Gary Powers was shot down over Soviet territory. The U.S. initially claimed it was a weather research aircraft that strayed off course. However, the Soviets captured Powers and revealed that the plane they had revealed in the plane wreckage and had proof of espionage. So the impact that this had was that the incident heightened tensions between the U.S. and Soviet Union during the Cold War, which was a big problem. It was a big embarrassment to the U.S. government and led to the cancellation of a planned peace summit between 2 superpowers. But Gary Powers was eventually returned to the U.S. in a prisoner exchange. And the funny thing is that in one of the museums over there, they actually have some of the remains of the crash. This case is simple yet impactful, highlighting espionage during a critical period in history. So some of the impacts that this has today is that the innovation in intelligence and collection, the success of building sophisticated tunnel to tap Soviet communications set a standard for complex and creative intelligence operations. This was kind of like the door to just do a bunch of crazy stuff. The This mindset evolved in today's society, in today's cyber surveillance and electronic eavesdropping technologies. Um, and then for the counterintelligence awareness, the compromise by Soviet double agent George Blake highlighted the importance of rooting out insider threats. The CIA now places stronger emphasis on internal security measures and extensive background checks for personnel. The advancements in technologies. So when the U-2 got shot down, it led to a development of safer unmanned surveillance technologies such as satellites and modern drone systems. So now people don't have to be taken hostage.
So that will conclude our entire presentation. To throw in a couple things that we wanted to talk about, here's a little fun fact for you. Did you know that the CIA stores almost 15,000 pounds of avocados and 20,000 chickens within their storerooms? We like to compare through reading everything. We thought that the CIA was kind of just the dude sitting in the corner that knew everything about everything but never said it. So we would thank you for your time. This will be the entirety of the presentation, and thank you.